Picture a wounded animal in the wild. Even when offered help, it may snap, growl, or attack because past injury has taught it that survival depends on striking first. And they feel ultra vulnerable because they've been weakened by their current and past trauma. The animal isn't malicious by nature, it's scared and operating from a place of deep self preservation. Now imagine that same dynamic playing out across organizations everywhere, because it does. I informally refer to this as the wounded aggressor cycle. When someone has experienced significant hurt, whether in their current workplace or past workplace, previous jobs, or even their childhood, their nervous system can become hypervigilant. They develop a heightened threat detection system that's constantly scanning for danger, even in the most benign and neutral situations. And this creates a paradox. The person who feels victimized can become the most aggressive, believing they're simply protecting themselves or preventing future harm from happening. And this wounded aggressor cycle, as I informally call it, can be a result of a myriad of life experiences and belief systems. But here are a few concepts to mull over as you think about this concept. First, trauma informed behavior. So, past hurt, whether from toxic workplaces, difficult bosses, or even childhood experiences, creates a defensive stance that becomes their default mode. So, their nervous system essentially gets stuck in this protect mode. Second, projection and cognitive distortion. So they start attributing their fears to others. Everyone's out to get me, so I need to get them first, or everything becomes black and white to them. Either they're in control or they're being controlled, and there's no middle ground. Third, possibly emotional dysregulation. So they lose the ability to match their response to the actual level of threat. So a simple disagreement feels like a significant personal attack, and they respond with the intensity of someone that's defending their life. And lastly, there's the radical honesty shield. Now, here's where I think it gets really interesting. The most common thing that I hear from these individuals is some variation of, I'm just being honest, or I'm being straightforward in my communication. Or another one I hear a lot is, look, I just tell it like it is. So there's the intellectualization group. They use logic to avoid acknowledging emotional devastation that their behavior is causing. This is often a focus on being right rather than actually being effective. There's the externalization of responsibility components. It becomes not my fault that you can't handle the truth, rather than taking ownership for how their message was delivered. There's also control seeking. By positioning themselves as the truth teller, they maintain power and keep others on the defensive. There's also emotional numbing. Wounded aggressors may engage in behavior to disconnect from their own feelings, such as fear, anxiety, worry of rejection, worry of looking bad, and also fear of actually engaging in others' emotional experiences. So the point is not necessarily to speculate and diagnose the root cause, but to understand that there is a driving force behind this kind of behavior. And we know that the behavior is not about us, but very often about the wounded aggressor. It makes it ever so slightly easier to come from a place of understanding, which is not to say that bad or aggressive behavior is excusable in the workplace, just that it occurs and it's expressed by individuals for a reason. And in part two of this talk, I will cover a few options on how to deal with this from a peer to peer or supervisor standpoint. And just a note, I'm using accessible language to make psychological concepts applicable to non clinicians. And this is a simplification of a very complex topic, as I think everyone can probably guess. The insights I'm sharing aren't intended as individual diagnosis or treatment. This isn't clinical advice. If you're struggling with workplace dynamics, consider speaking with a licensed professional and your HR team. And don't forget to document.